Hello, and welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. Today's card is going to be a birthday card that I'm making for a dear friend who just turned 40. And so I wanted to make it a little more, in my mind, what I would describe as classic. And so you'll see me go through the transformations of this card in the moment. And that's what my channel is all about, making those mistakes and adapting. That's the fun part about creating cards for me. So I'm using these three sets. The main set is going to be the big bold words from Creative Expressions. I love the surprise die, right? And then we're starting with the irreverent birthday messages. It's a hard word, irreverent birthday messages from Hero Arts. And then Tim Holtz mini blueprint stamps. I wanted to use that present in top right corner and use that as an image somewhere in the card. So, I saw this die. I loved it because I thought, oh, it's already the shape of a card. I don't need to place it onto a card. I can actually make that a card because of the shape that it is. And so let me experiment with that. And, I've seen people do it in the past. I've never done it myself. So I thought, oh, looks simple enough. Let me give it a shot. I bet I can do it. And so what I do here is I just whip out my scraps, my big scraps, and try to find some um, uh, scrap paper that will fit the size of the die, and so I can play around. This is a new set for me, and so I don't really know what it looks like, and sometimes I'm a visual learner, so I like to just visually see what it's actually going to look like. So I'm just using my scraps to cut out something to play around with here. And so here I did cut it out in white, and I thought, okay, that's nice. Let me put it on white and black. That's classic, right? And so I took the outline surprise die, and I'm creating a black background for my surprise cutout die off screen. And I thought, okay, this is gonna look good. It's gonna look like a suit or a tuxedo in my mind, right? So I thought, okay, that's nice, but I think maybe some gold will actually look better. And so obviously, that's what I ended up with. But I thought, okay, let me play around with this since now that I can see the die, I know what it actually looks like. And for some reason, maybe it's just to my eye, but the white, it was hard to read, even with the black background. So I thought maybe I want some color, but I still want to look classic. And I thought, oh, look at that. That's so much better. Gold and black. Gold on black just looks good. They both look great, but for the vibe I was in, for this card, for this friend, I thought, perfect. This is perfect. And so what I did there is I cut out the background surprise die in black 4 times because what I want to do is I need to create the card itself. And so I want to create the hinges is what I'm doing right now. And so what I am doing is I'm measuring the width of that little edge of the card of the surprise die and just creating two flaps. I was measuring there on the on the trimmer there, and so I'm just creating two black flaps from my scraps, and they're going to act again as the hinges of the card. And so what I thought in my head was I am going to just glue them on top of each other so that it will hide all the work I'm doing to create the flaps from scratch, right? This is one way to do it. I'm sure I could have die cut the card out so that it doesn't need flaps, but I thought this would be simpler for me in my mind. I don't mind putting in the effort. And so I am just making sure it's a good crease with my bone folder, and I use my Tombow Extreme tape runner there and just line it up to the edge and put it on. And so I'm kind of experimenting now because I wasn't confident that this was going to work because of the fact that the outline is the shape of the word surprise, right? And I thought, oh, this is perfect. It actually will work as long as I don't attach on that top straight edge that right there where my tape runner was, then it's good. And so here you see me kind of struggling. I think I always have on and off troubles with tape runners. Especially, I love the Tombow Extreme tape runner because it is, in my opinion, one of the best tape runners out there as far as durability and strength. But that can be a con sometimes, especially when you're creating on the fly and you make mistakes. So what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to line it along the edge and make it as smooth as possible, and kind of curving and such without my tape getting caught into uh, the the tape runner itself. And so I'm struggling a little bit. I just wanted you to see that, to show that hopefully I'm not the only one out there. Maybe it is just me, but I don't know. And so I am going to place this onto one of the other background surprise dies here. And you'll see me here think I got it right, but then realize soon quickly after, oh, it's not exactly lined up right after. Thank God I didn't press it down, because Tombow Extreme Tape Runner is, like I said, one of my favorites. It's strong. And so I really lucked out here. I lucked out that I was able to take it off, take it apart without ripping the card base. And so I'm really trying to focus, try to make it really straight edge. And again, there are different ways to do this. You can line it up on your stamping platform, your cutter, whatever it is that you have as a straight edge, and line it up to help you. But I didn't do it with this because, again, it's not a straight edge completely. It's the outline of the word surprise. And so I thought, let me just eye it. So I used the bone folder. I managed to do it. I lucked out. I was pretty happy with it. The flaps work. I was like, okay, let me just make sure that this still works and measures out and doesn't overlap in any way. And so you see me pull out these two other background surprise dies out, and this is going to act as the back portion of the card. And so you see me attach it with the flaps there, and yep, it looks like it's going to match well. So I decided at that point I need to switch to liquid adhesive, because that's going to be way simpler and I'll have a lot more forgiveness as far as making sure that it's lined up evenly without ruining the card base and messing up. I tend to do that a lot. And so you see me do that with liquid adhesive, and bam, it is so much easier. I get to adjust it. I it's really forgiving in terms of drying time, and so I have a lot of flexibility there. And so you see that third straight edge there. Again, there's no flap there, because if I put a flap there, then it's going to limit the open and closing ability of the card. And there I am lining up the gold surprise die cut on top of it. And I thought, oh, wow, I love it. I just love it. Okay, so I glued that on with liquid adhesive as well. And so now I just need some fun images and a sentiment. And so I'm trying to play around here, figure out what I want, get my stamping platform out, my Tim Holtz stamping platform. I'm adjusting the flap because this is a rubber stamp. And so you can't really see it on camera there, but that part says rubber. And so I flipped it to the right side so that I can accommodate the rubber stamp. And so what I'm doing here is I'm just taking some scraps and I'm going to just stamp everything in basic black ink, and I'm going to color it off a little bit later. I thought cheese and wine, perfect, because this friend happens to own a wine bar, and he also happened to have introduced wine and cheese into my life, which is really great. And here I am on a stamping platform. I am flipping it to the clear side again, because these are clear stamps. And so it needs to be flipped so that I can use it for the clear stamps. And again, I'm just stamping it in basic black ink because I am going to, as you see, I've cut it out here, and I'm going to just color really quickly myself. So I'm not doing anything fancy here. I do like shading, but I was just not in the mood to color when I was making this card. So I'm just doing some really quick sloppy coloring with some light detailing shading here, and completely scribbling out of the lines, because I'm going to fussy cut them out like I did with the blue present. Again, not anything fancy. And then, so I just wanted a little bit of color there to offset the classic black and gold. Playing around with the positioning here of the objects, and I was trying to put it on top of the card and put it in a way where it doesn't interrupt the ability to read the word surprise on the card. And I couldn't find something that I was happy with. And so I was playing around with it, trying to figure that out. And I thought, okay, let me just think about that. Let me put it off to the side. That's often what I do. If I can't figure something out on the card, I'll put it off to the side so that visually I can look at it while I work on another element of the card. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm working on the inside of the card and making the sentiment straight. And so this is what I was talking about earlier, that you can use something like a stamping platform so that you can use the guidelines and the measurements to help you align things straight as much as possible. And I'm using the guidelines there on the stamping platform cover to help me get it as straight as possible and adjust it. It's kind of cool. So I wanted to stamp it in gold to keep up with the theme of black and gold on the inside. And so I just got some gold ink there. And I think it's Memento Gold ink. And you'll see here, I am struggling to get a clear, crisp image of the sentiment, and I couldn't figure it out. And I think what ended up happening is the layers of the card maybe was offsetting the pressure, and also the magnets were too close to where I was stamping the sentiment. And so you see me, obviously, I'm trying to make it as crisp as possible, as visible as possible, but I give up. And so I say, okay, here's another switch. I'm just going to die cut another background, surprise in black, and I am going to emboss it in gold instead. And that way I know it'll be a guaranteed crispness of the sentiment to make sure it's clear and legible. It's going to be so much easier. And then I'll just go ahead and glue that extra die cut onto the inside of the card and make it look all right. And I was okay with it because it makes the card a little more firm, adding another layer on without adding too much bulk, which was kind of nice. And so I have some of my Hero Arts Gold embossing powder there, and just warming up my heat gun, and like to start on the back to heat it up a little bit, so get a little bit even embossing there. And you see it's so much more crisp, especially, look at that top one where it's just ink versus embossing on the bottom. So much better. I'm happy with that. So I am just taking a craft knife here to clean up a little bit of stray embossing powder to make sure the words are legible. And then just take a rag and clean up all of the powder, and I moisten the towel, the rag a little bit, just to get the some stray glue and stray powder off, and make it a little more crisp on the black, so it doesn't show. So again, you see me place those items on the front of the card, and I did that, but then I realized, oh, I am not completely happy with that. And so what I did is well, here I'm using glossy accents, great adhesive to make the bottle look a little bit more like an actual bottle. It makes it pop up, but then also glossy. But then here is what I'm saying is I thought, okay, let me create one where the images are a little bit smaller. The present was a little too big and distracting to me. And I placed the cheese inside, which I thought matched perfectly with the sentiment because aged cheese, right? It makes sense. And it's perfect. And that way I had a little image in the inside as well. It doesn't look as blank, and much more suitable for me. There, like I mentioned earlier, the top straight edge of the die cut, I don't want that to be connected because it makes the card difficult to be flat as you open and close it. And so I just cut it off and made it work. And so to each his own, right? You choose what works visually better for your preferences, your eye. They're both okay, both great, but I decided in the end I tossed out my original and just made another one with smaller images and an image on the inside. I'm so much more happy. And so that's the card. And in the end, you kind of see me go through all of the different changes, and hopefully that motivates you to never give up and not be discouraged that you have to keep making changes in the card, because that's part of the creative process. It's great. I hope you guys do it too, and I'd love to see your examples and hear your feedback. All right, well, thank you for watching. Comment below. I'd love to hear your ideas. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can see the next card. See you guys next time.